Welcome back, everybody. Happy New Year. 2022 is at our doorsteps here, and we jumped right into it. It's January 10th. Bit of a slow start to the year. Not too many news releases out. Today we saw a few more, but last week was awfully slow, and I was a bit surprised to see that. I expected way more of a rush through the door, and with a lot more press releases, drill results, and everything coming out. Not just from Cartier Resources, but from everybody. And it's been slow. Gold has been hanging in there. Not the greatest market as right now, but it's hanging in there. It's all right. But yeah, 2022. Let's see what it brings. We're starting off with a series of interviews with companies we work with, we're really close with, to sort of give it to bring out their glass ball and see what 2022 is going to be like. What are their plans? What is happening? And we're also recapping 2021 for a second as well. We're using that opportunity to ask the CEOs, what did they learn? What motivated them? What frustrated them in 2021 as well? So we can get an idea of what they're planning to change or do in 2022. Before I switch over, I hope I have this queued up. I do. Make sure to follow us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter. This is all live. And make sure to subscribe to our channel. Turn on that little bell notification as well, so you always get prompted when we go live with an update. It's in your best interest, because this information is for you. We have the CEOs live here, so you can hear straight from them. And enough of me, actually. Let me switch over to my guest, and I got Philippe Cloutier here. Philippe, it is great to see you. We chatted last week, but still, Happy New Year for video purposes.
Happy New Year, Kai.
Philippe, it's great to see you. And we spoke early December, so it's not too long ago that we chatted. You put out some results, Benoit. We had a discussion about that. We had a breaking news special. But let's talk about 2021. What are some of the takeaways from 2021 for you personally?
We were very busy on several fronts. That's the first takeaway. The second takeaway, we're a small team. So the lessons learned was that, we stumbled because we didn't have a lot of news flow, and there's several reasons for that. And so the takeaway is we don't want to repeat that in 2022. 2021, we were operating on Fenton, Benoit, Wilson, Chimo, and then we optioned off another property. So we had JVs and deals, we had drill programs, we had mineral resource estimate, we had engineering studies, and launched a PEA on Chimo. And again, it was a very challenging program for Benoit because of its unconventional approach to drilling. Very, very slow, and obviously very disappointing results. But we've picked ourselves up, we've turned the page, and we launched another program on Fenton. We got some channeling done. We launched a geophysical program on Fenton. And as it is now, if we move into 2022, well, we're going to wait for the permitting on that and geophysical results, and then after that, the drilling should follow suit. And on Chimo, well, we launched a PEA late November, early December, and that's out of our hands. And all the while, we've been doing some project generative work, and we'll see where that will lead as well.
Okay, so quite busy actually, 2021. Can you sort of summarize how much have you drilled in 2021 as well? How much did you spend, and
17,000 meters on Benoit. Consisted of two programs. One essentially under the deposit, which was directional drilling. So very long holes at an unconventional angle. That's what really hit us hard. It was difficult to get up and running on that and build up steam. But nevertheless, although we know the system continues, the results were disappointing, and so that's on a shelf for now. So it's 17,000 meters on Benoit, about $5 to $6 million of expenditures there, and then we had leftover flow through that we've directed at Fenton. We're sitting with $6.2 million in the bank right now, so we're quite comfortable moving into 2020.
Yeah. Now, we talked about Benoit in detail during our breaking news special. I'll make sure to drop a link at the bottom here of this video as well. But what are some of the things, and I mentioned it in the intro, I want to learn what frustrated you in 2021, but also what motivated you in 2021, to go forward, to plow into 2022 with a positive momentum.
Well, what frustrated us, me personally, is that we had such a stupendous run on Chimo. 3 years running, a press release every third week on Chimo. And we kept hitting. We were drilled off 27 zones. We delivered 3 resource estimates. The last one that was filed in May 2021, that then triggered or rendered possible the completion of the in-house internal engineering work that then prompted us to launch the PEA. But the frustration was that while we were doing that, we were doing a tedious program on Benoit with high hopes, and it didn't pan out. And because we're a very, very small team, we were working on several things, and that really dented our news flow process, and we don't want that to happen in 2022.
No, but also, like, maybe on the flip side, what motivated you? What was something positive that you took away from 2021 that you personally learned, or that you learned within the company that you're taking into 2022 now?
Well, the positive thing is we're convinced that Chimo is going to move forward. We're taking every step in the next few months to make sure that it keeps advancing and it will reward our investors. When we saw that, we immediately launched a project generative effort. Although we still have Fenton to drill off, partners drilling on Wilson, Benoit's on a shelf. We're looking to replenish the pipeline of projects, things that are in line with what we are doing at Chimo. And our calling card, because we're so successful at Chimo, is it's we're not ashamed at all to knock on the senior company's doors and say, look, do you have projects that you've shelved because obviously they're not in your strategic corporate strategic alignment, and we'll take those on and we'll do what we did at Chimo. And so it's a great calling card. Our success at Chimo is a great calling card and gets us in the door when we're looking to acquire projects.
Yeah, since you opened that can of worms, let me follow up with a question there. You have a great relationship with Agnico, and they're merging obviously with Kirkland Lake Gold. I think that deal is pretty much done. But do you see anything falling out of that transaction, especially in Quebec, or any projects that might fall to the wayside because they're now busy with that, with Detour, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only Kirkland and Agnico, but any senior company that are focused on developing really, capital intensive projects will necessarily shelve projects that have merit and value, but it's just not at their level of interest at that point. And when you're a junior like Cartier and you've demonstrated the capacity to drill off in a very focused manner, a very cost-efficient way, the best example is Chimo, then it's a great calling card. You get to knock on the door and say, look, do you have anything that's lookalike that you would like to see advanced? Let's craft a win-win deal here. And so that's what we're working on while we're working on Chimo, while we're working on Fenton. So we're looking to have a very dynamic 2022, and hopefully not only have robust news flow, but hit a few home runs.
Yeah. But before we jump into the projects and plans for 2022 in detail, I just want to get to a status quo. Can you catch us up a bit on the year-end financials? I know they're not published yet, but whatever you feel comfortable sharing, but just so we know, okay, this is the plan for 2022. These are potential budgets. What's the plan moving forward?
Okay, we've got $6.2 million of cash in the bank. 2.7 of that is flow through. So, earmarked for a diamond drilling, obviously, by the end of December 2022. And so more than enough money to get what we want done. Obviously, one of the budget items is completion of the PEA on Chimo. And we'll see where other project acquisitions may come in and tilt or reorient or reallocate our budget for the year.
Yeah, okay. You have to be opportunistic, obviously. As you said, you're knocking on some doors, so might as well. You mentioned Chimo PA. Why don't we start there for 2022? Are we still on track? And run me again through the budget. I know I've asked you for it. Like, is there anything else budget-wise that you need to calculate for? Do you foresee the QPs to ask for some redrilling or anything like that? Is that all in good standing?
That's all in good standing. That's all current. I think the QPs on the PEA, what they're going to do is they're going to run, obviously, because where Chimo is located, right along the highway, access to infrastructure, toll milling, and qualified workforce. And there are several senior producers down the highway. They're going to run various scenarios with various cutoff grades, stuff that we would not have necessarily done in-house. And because it's their forte and they have access to certain numbers, we may be surprised, positively surprised with what they come up with. From what I've heard, they're on track. I don't have a delivery date. I may have that, in January, early February. By then, maybe we'll talk again, or that'll be in a press release.
Okay, no, fair enough. And remind me again for the PEA scenarios. Like, do you have to nail down one scenario for the PEA, or is it are you allowed to have a couple scenarios, show a couple possibilities in a PEA? Like, because I know for a feasibility study, it needs to be one scenario which needs to be hammered out to the T, right?
Yeah. Well, no, in the PEA, you could study several scenarios. You generally headline one, and then follow suit with several other scenarios, and that's the upside of a PEA. It helps you. It basically is an orientation device, an orientation scoping type document. When it gets to the feasibility level, yeah, you're right. You have to nail down one approach and then drive hard on it.
Okay, gotcha. And that's pretty much it on Chimo. There's no other drilling happening or anything news coming out. PEA is the next step. Perfect. Yep. All right, just putting a bow around it. So Chimo, sure. Check mark. Fenton, we briefly talked about it at the end of our conversation in early December. Run us through it. I know there's some channel sampling happening, some permitting happening for drilling. Where are we on that?
Okay. The channel sampling was completed just before Christmas, and actually the snow was coming in. So the guys got out of there just in time, sent the assays in for the samples in for assaying. The geophysics, I believe, was completed mid to late December. So we're expecting those results by the end of January. And the permitting was launched concurrently with the geophysics, just in case we sort of over requested on the permits. So that should be in by the end of January as well. And we'll adjust once that comes in. We'll adjust the program, the drill program accordingly. What's the only thing that is of a concern is that some of the targets are in swampy areas. So if we have to do the drilling, we'll probably cheat on that before doing some, the outcropping areas per se, because once it starts thawing, you don't want to be in a swamp when that snow starts to melt. So we're waiting for the permits. We're waiting for the geophysics. Should be in late January, early February, and then things will evolve from there. And we're fully budgeted, fully funded for that program as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, let's talk about driller availability real quick. I know permitting, you're still expecting permitting. Have you gone ahead and secured drilling capacity at all, or is that something you only do when you have the permit in hand?
Well, two things. We have leftover meters from the current contract that was on Benoit, because Benoit we were gunning for 30,000 meters, so we only did 17,000. So theoretically, we have an allotment of meters from that contract. I didn't check before Christmas what the driller availability was like, what the lab availability was like. Obviously, you may have heard here in Quebec, just before Christmas, the province of Quebec went into lockdown, restricted gatherings, family gatherings. They shut down the restaurants, some of the non-essential businesses. So we're just getting back into the groove here. Last week, people were starting to show up and open up their offices. And so we're monitoring that right now, see how that's going to happen. I am aware that in the several of the First Nation communities, I've seen some press releases saying that they're locking down and they're shutting access to some parts of their territory because of a fear of COVID hitting their communities.
Would that affect Fenton at all? Fenton drilling, let's assume you have the permits February 1st. Do you expect a delay, or could you start drilling to February 2nd?
not with respect to COVID and that. Obviously, if some of the northern communities have certain lockdowns that may slow down some stuff, but it theoretically wouldn't affect the drilling.
Yeah. No, that's good to hear. Rough, but you said you're budgeted and everything. You have that in mind. You're going to use up the credit first. So let's assume 13,000 meters on Fenton is planned.
Roughly, yeah, roughly. And the thing at Fenton is it's absolutely different from Chimo and Benoit. There's a lot of subsurface showings that were historically demonstrated by either surface channel and trenching, and some very short holes on some wildcat geophysical anomalies, IP anomalies. We felt that the IP was not the right method for what we were looking for and what we had seen at the Fenton deposit itself. So our VP and our senior geo designed, with the aid of a geophysicist, a specific approach to actually delineate what we're gunning for, where we think the gold is in the system, and longitudinal shears in basalts, high sulfide content, ubiquitous silica as well in there. So we have to be, we have to look at the geophysics very carefully. And unlike Chimo and Benoit, it's a lot of shallow drilling. And so a lot of drill setups and moving around. So again, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, our concern is that if some of these end up being in the swamp, we're going to have to approach the drilling program with a certain logistical pattern rather than, showing priority.
No, fantastic. So Benoit shelved, Chimo PA happening, Fenton full steam ahead once permits are there. Channel samples by the end of the month, most likely, hopefully, fingers crossed.
The guys haven't, they've actually come back into the Monday. Yeah, they actually come back in the office today. So they're most likely opening up their emails, and I hope they got assay results and those should follow, fairly soon. So that's for Fenton, and we'll wait for the permitting and geophysics and get that underway. As you mentioned, Chimo, it's largely out of our hands, but we're monitoring and we're chaperoning the situation. And there's project generation on the way, so we'll see where that leads.
Fantastic. Sounds like an exciting 2022.
Yeah.
So you seem quite excited about it. So that's positive.
Well, I am, because we don't know what the markets have in store for us, but we've got our costs under control. We still are a very small team, so we have very tight control on our budgets and what we do. Yeah. And since we do focus on high level exploration projects, well, I think that will end up rewarding our shareholders.
Yeah. Since I have you, Philippe, and this is a bit of an off Cartier question, like what's happening in Val d'Or and the region right now? Can you give us a bit of an overview what's happening in the region itself while I have you?
Well, sure. There are, Agnico, El Dorado, Yamana, Monarch, O3 Mining, Probe, Radisson. There's a lot of drilling activity from all these companies. And, I was talking to a diamond driller before Christmas. He says, Phil, if you bring me drillers, I get a lot more drilling done. And so apparently there's a lot of machines in the backyard, but what they're having trouble finding is qualified drillers. And even, there's Beaufort with Monarch Mining is trying to develop their mine, and there's El Dorado. And so there seems to be a lack of workforce right now. It's a game of musical chairs being played. And so, but Val d'Or has always risen to that challenge. So it's very interesting. You wouldn't think there's a lockdown because the mines per se are deemed essential businesses. So there's a lot of activity, and that doesn't mean that there's neglect on the health and safety side, because the mining industry is a front runner in terms of health and safety. So I think it's going to be a very dynamic year for mining and exploration here in Val d'Or.
Yeah, it's too bad because of the lockdowns. Because I was going to ask you, what are you hearing at the Le Prospecteur or so? What is happening? But people are not mingling at the Le Prospecteur right now.
No, no,
So
no, no, no. The restaurants themselves, the government has allowed takeouts, but the restaurant themselves are closed off to
yeah,
having people walk into the restaurant and have a seat and eating. So so there's a slowdown there. They've shut down the grocery stores and various other stores on Sundays. So it's like stepping back 10
sounds like
years.
Germany, good old Catholic Germany, where everything's closed on Sundays.
Well, listen, like I mentioned to you just before the interview, I got my third booster shot just yesterday. So they warned me that I'd have a bit of side effects here, and that's
See, I was trying to use that fogger to see if we can shake anything out of you in terms of like what are you hearing out of Val d'Or in terms of gossip. With Kirkland and Agnico merging, is there any gossip going around town? Anything you want to share? Anything juicy?
No, other than all the guys that I know on all the companies that I've mentioned, they're all very, very busy. Yeah. Traditionally you would see these people in town, or you see them at different shows, and everybody's extremely busy working right now, trying to get their drill programs done. I know that the consultants that are doing resource estimates and PEAs, they are overloaded with contracts.
Yeah, fantastic. Philippe, I'm going to let you go, let you recover from your third shot. Appreciate the recap and, of course, the outlook of 2022. I have the feeling we're going to be chatting in a few weeks again. In a few weeks, meaning in a couple, when you come out with results from Fenton. We're probably going to talk about more drill budgets, drill targets in detail as well, and maybe some of the sequencing of the drilling.
Kai, somebody had to take the first interview, and I took it. And yeah, you're right. In a few more weeks, I'll know where the dust settles in terms of our plans for 2022, and I'll probably bully myself back into another interview.
Fantastic. Philippe, thanks so much for joining us. And everybody else, let me switch over real quick. But everybody else, thanks for joining us. This was the first SF Live interview of the year. And we're quite excited to be back here in the studio. So stay tuned for more, obviously. Quite excited to see what Cartier has in store from Fenton, from Chimo. Looking forward to the Chimo PA and the various scenarios they'll be presenting to us. But make sure to subscribe to our channel, YouTube, Twitter, of course, as well. Hit the thumbs up button. I'm a bit rusty still. Hit the bell notification as well. Leave a comment and let us know what you think. And we'll be back with more. We got 2 more interviews lined up this week, but always check back. We'll be scheduling those interviews quite frequently, especially breaking news specials as they come in. Thanks so much for joining.